Okay, welcome back. This is a continuation from part one of our sort of templating portfolio demo. Where we last left off, we put together this portfolio page based on Aaron Malcolm's illustration for us. It's really good. For those watching and you want to hire Aaron, please contact Aaron Malcolm. I don't know. Are you up on Instagram or something? I don't know. But look her up. She's great. Okay. Let's do. Oh, yeah. Okay. So the next thing I would say is, hey, what do we do with like a vertical piece? So I have here. This is the caricature demo I did of Nicolas Cage. It's such a vertical piece. For Nicolas Cage. Like, if I put this on there, what happens, right? Well, in order to do that, let's first off, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take all this wonderful stuff that I made for the template stuff off of Aaron's piece here. Just going to select all these layers. So you just click on the top one, you hold down Shift, and you click on the bottom one, and all of these layers will be selected. If you hit Control G, that will group everything into a folder, and then you can hide that. So later on, if I wanted to come back, I could always unhide it, and then it'll come back. But at least now I have the same dimensions, the same tone for the background, which is this boring neutral gray, as I did before, and I always have it underneath, sort of hidden, as a reference to go back to. So I can just bring up this Nicolas Cage image right here. He's just so intense. He's always wigging out, Nicolas Cage. Um, I don't know. I'm just gonna start off by creating a couple of files because I don't want to get rid of, the original one yet. But I do definitely want one version of this that really fits on the page. And I'm not entirely sure where I want to put it, but it would be helpful if you had several different caricatures maybe. But in this case, we only got one. So what do we do? What do we do with that? Well, first off, let's do all the bells and whistles that we did on Aaron's piece over here to this Nicolas Cage thing. Remember what we did on this wonderful raptor battle layer here. We we put some effects on there by going down to FX, and then we added a drop shadow and stroke. Well, if you don't want to just go through the process of redoing all that again, what you could do is actually go to the layer that has the effects on there, and you hold down Alt, and then you drag from the effects section, you drag that up to the layer that you wanted affecting, and you just copied all those effects onto this new layer. And there might be some fine tuning that needs to be done afterwards, but basically I've ripped off some of that stuff. Other things I may want to rip off are, I put in these two lines up on the top and bottom here. I am just going to copy that over. I'm just going to drag those two layers. Oh yeah, again, you select it, right? You select this one, hold down Shift, you select that one, and then you just drag it down to the this little new layer button down here. It looks like a square, but with the corner folded. And then you just let go, and then it just duplicated those two new layers. You bring it outside, you drag it outside of this folder, and now you've just duplicated that up outside of there. Anything else we want to rip off from, from ourselves? Oh, all the text, right? Because we're going to rewrite the text. But then first, what we need to do is we need to select all these. And oh yeah, you can also hold down control if you don't want to like select everything in between. So if you hold down control on the layer, you click on that, you click on this, and you could skip that one and click on this while holding down control. You see how I just went 1, 2, skip, and then went to the third one? Okay. So now I could drag that down to the new layer folder, and that just duplicated all that. I'm just going to drag this all the way up past this group folder, you know, and now that I've got everything that I needed from the previous file, I can just hide that. See, on all that remains, Aaron Malcolm over here, but she didn't do this one. This one I did. Interesting. So I'm just gonna rename this one with my name, Daniel Chang. Yep. And then over here, just gonna, instead of the my email, I'm just gonna type in I don't know, danielchang.com or something like that. www. Daniel, I'm just gonna do it all caps, chang.com. Yeah, that's my website. And then instead of Moon Raptor Battle, this is just Nicholas Cage caricature. Cool. I'm just gonna click on the move tool, and then if you hold down shift while moving, it just kind of moves it, you know, horizontally, vertically, you know, kind of on a straight line there. Yeah, but now I'm left with all this empty space. I have no idea what to fill it up with, quite frankly. I'm not sure. Um, I don't know. We could play around with a couple of things. Um, First thing we can probably do, I'm not sure, but we can. I'm not even sure what this buys me, but let's try it. We could just grab this section. I'm not sure what this buys me, but let's just try it. We'll see. Um, Control J. I'm just gonna select this part of it, hit Control J. What that does is it copies what I have selected. Oh yeah, how did I select? I went over here to this marquee tool, and then I just dragged the box across there. Selected that, and then what it does is if I hit Control J, it just copies whatever's inside the selection onto a new layer. So I go Control J, and then it just brought this thing up on a new layer. Wow, this thing's like way big though, so I'm not sure if, I don't know. I'm not even sure if this is all that necessary, quite frankly. This usually works better if you have like a complicated scene, like for example, I have this other piece over here. Like this piece, it would definitely work with, where, you know, you could like put in some close-ups, and you know, it's like, oh yeah, look at this detail, look at that detail, um, along in there. But in this instance, because it's a face, it's like you kind of lose the likeness if you just go with the mouth, right? So, so I'm not entirely sure what this buys us, but it's kind of weird. So I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, let's just grab like the facial triangle, maybe. I'm not sure. So there, that's the facial triangle, the eyes and the nose. Let's try that. I'm not sure. And then hit Control J again. Control J on that layer. Now I've got that section on a new one. Oh yeah, things I've seen in the past. This was kind of neat in the past, where you could actually take this and like really fade it out. I've seen people do this in their portfolio where they just kind of fade things out a little bit, and maybe this person's not stuffed all the way out here, but it's just kind of like gives you an impression or something like that. I'm not sure. Maybe that's what it can buy us. I'm not sure. But like, I don't know. Like if this was just kind of fading it out and just kind of showing us like, hey, this is still the start of the show, but man, look at that eye. Yeah, actually. let's do this. Let's duplicate up this weird image. Just gonna duplicate it up, and I'm just gonna put the other side of his face there. I don't know what this buys me. Quite frankly, I kind of don't care because it's kind of funny. Um, so you just kind of use the space is my point, and with it faded out, maybe let me do another trick I like to do. Over here, we could fade out the left-hand side so it goes to nothing, and we do that. We can do that with a layer mask right here. So you go down to this little square with a circle in it that creates a mask, right? And what a mask does is whatever you paint black, it will erase. So like that. See, it just erased it. And whatever you paint white, it'll bring back to full opacity. Okay. So I just undid my eraser by painting it white. So this also works with a gradient. So for example, if I have a 50% gray, like that, and I erase, it just erases 50% of it, not the whole thing, right? So if I bring it back again, let's see. Okay, now it's back to 100%. So it's equating value, like the the value like from black to white, right? Um, it's equating value to the amount of opacity. And so things that you can do is select black on this while you are on the masking tool, and you go to gradient right here. See this gradient tool right here? Well, I usually like to set my gradient. So these are the options for your gradient. The default option is this thing on the top left, which I don't necessarily enjoy. I like the one that goes from whatever's my foreground color, in this case it's black, and it goes into this checkerboard, and the checkerboard signifies an alpha. What is an alpha? Alpha is basically transparency. So it just goes from whatever's in my foreground, which is black, and currently it goes from that to nothing, right? So from here I can just get this linear gradient, hold down shift, which drags the light perfectly horizontal, and I can just start sort of dragging little lines across here until it just kind of fades to nothing on the very edge of it, something like that. So it almost like gradiates out, like it's ghosting out or something like that. You could do the same thing with this other side right here. So this part of the image as well. You can click on this mask, and while on the mask, now I'm going to go the other way, going from right to left. So I'm holding down shift, and I'm just dragging right to left, right? So now we have this kind of fade that goes into nothing. And just, I don't know, maybe it shows us madness. And you could come up with all sorts of stuff about, like, what does it actually mean? What does it mean? I don't know. Double face. I don't know. This is, yeah, you can get too crazy with this, and I think I'm kind of there right now. It's like in the too crazy, but it's funny, you know. But something like this could work, if this was, like my other image. So let's just try that now. Okay, so you got this, right? This part. We have the name of the artist over here. We've got some way of contacting that artist over here, and we've got Nicolas Cage's caricature. I mean, any other thing you can add on here. You could probably say what medium it is, and you could just say it's digital at that point. Digital media, something like that. I can type that down over here. Digital media, something like that. Occasionally you'll see that pop up. If you did a mixture between digital and traditional, you could call it mixed media as well, right? And I'm starting to see a lot more of that happening these days, where you have like a nice mix. Like I don't know where the computer, starts and where the traditional media ends, right? So something like that, you could probably put that in there. Probably small, you know, digital media, something like that. Again, make it look pro, make it look professional, right? So I kind of like this. I kind of dig this. I'm just gonna grab this folder or this layer and then hold down shift and select all the stuff in between. Group it all, Control G. That puts it into a folder. Oh yeah, you should name it too, right? So go to group 2 and then rename it uh, caricature, caricature, right? And that first illustration here, we can just call this I don't know, call it fantasy ill, right? Something like that. Okay, so now I know what folders got which. I didn't want to call that illustration because this is also an illustration, so it's like, oh, they're all illustrations. Um, so here we got this image. Let's reduce the size. Remember how we did that? We hit Control T, and we can bring it down to about here, right? Something like that. And hit enter once you're happy with the size. We can bring back all that cool effects stuff that we had before as well. See all those effects with the stroke and the drop shadow. Again, hold down Alt, drag it up to this image. Once you do one, you could just wash, rinse, repeat for the other ones, right? Something like that. See how, I didn't really have to do a whole lot of setup work this time. The other thing, of course, all these words here, right, from all this all the way down to here, we can just duplicate that up. So I'm just, again, clicking the top, holding down shift, click on that bottom one, selects all these layers with all the words on there, and just going to drag that down to make new layer, which is the square with the folded corner. I'm going to drag this all the way up past the caricature folder right there, and now I can just hide this thing behind it. So now I've got all these, I got the 2 lines, I've got my name, which won't change, the websites, that's not going to change. This is no longer called Nicolas Cage Caricature, so we could just call this, I don't know, VizDev Landscape or something like that. Visual Development land, Landscape, or Visual Development Background. That's so generic. I don't know. You could come up with something more interesting than that. Background. Okay, and it's also digital media, still the same. Right, so I'm just gonna click on it. Oh yeah, how am I selecting things when I'm doing this? Okay, so you put your cursor over something and then you hold down Control, and that will bring you to the layer of whatever you just clicked on. So you can see that layer just popped up. Now if I clicked on the gray that's behind there, it doesn't click on any of this because that's the background. So I'm just gotta make sure you hit the part of the word that is in black, right? And then you can move it around, after that. If I clicked on this, then I'll be able to, and that's holding down Control. It just brings you automatically to whatever layer you want it to be at. Okay, so we had mentioned something about maybe cropping in and doing some other pictures. There's actually other images that I had that kind of are associated with this. I had initially put together a mood board, right? We had collected some reference. I didn't make this stuff up completely myself. I was looking at reference, and it might actually be worth it to just show part of your process from your mood board, right? So what I can do is I can make a whole new section on the right hand side over here, right? Just gonna make a new layer, and this is something unique to this when I have a mood board. It's like, mood reference or something like that, touchstone reference. I'm not entirely sure what you can call it, but I just know it's, something that really helped me get to where I wanted to go. So what I just did here, let me undo that. What I just did there was I grabbed the marquee tool, made a square. If you want to add to the square, you hold down shift. If you want to subtract from the square, you hold down alt, and alt will cut it down. If you want to fill it in, you need to, I think, can I just fill it in now? Yeah, I can. Okay, I hold down alt and backspace, and that will fill it in with whatever I have in my foreground color right here. Now, this layer, I can just reduce down the opacity, and it'll just bring back sort of the grayish color that's behind it. Again, I want this stuff to stay in the background. I don't want this stuff to be overwhelming, right? And now, after I've got that though, I can come in and I can just start selecting images that help me get to where I needed to go. So just grab this, drag it in there. See, I'm this marquee tool, right? Just gonna select around this. I kind of want a little bit of the black border around it. I don't know why. Just dragging it down. Boom, 1, 2, and then even though this is actually a painting done by another person, a very skilled artist. I don't know your name. I'm sorry. But yeah, this is a still from the Netflix film Claws. Such a beautiful movie. We were definitely looking at this as part of our, touchstones and influences. So I've got these 3 images now. Okay, so they are on this layer, and this layer. I'm just going to select these 3 layers. Again, how do I do that? I hold down shift and I click on there, and that selects the 3 layers. I want to resize this now so it kind of fits on the right hand side there. Just hold down, click on Control T, and then in the older Photoshops you just click on shift while you resize, and you can do that. And so within here I can just write down another little blurb. I'm just gonna, I think this is about the right size, this part that says digital media. I'm just gonna duplicate that layer up by dragging it down to the new layer button. I'm just gonna put this over here, either here or up here. I don't know which one's better. Let's see. I'm just gonna put it up there and go mood board reference. Is that too long? I don't know. Maybe mood board ref. I don't know. Maybe just ref is good enough. Something like that. Mood board ref. And I don't know. I don't think people will be confused by that. If I just call it reference, people should be able to tell, like, hey, I didn't go out to the mountains and took that photograph. I didn't, I don't know, get hired by Netflix and painted that awesome image. And then But you do generally want to credit artists where you can. I don't know. Right now, this is just reference for me, and it's just part of, I don't know, part of the portfolio package of saying like, hey, look, I could do research, right? Oh, maybe research is a better word. Instead of just saying mood board reference, you could just say mood board research, something like that. Yeah, I think that's probably more descriptive. I'm not sure. Um, any case, something like this can work as a page. Hierarchy. This thing right now is like taller than that, and that kind of bothers me. So I'm gonna change a couple of things, um, including so all this stuff. I'm gonna group all this together. The square behind it, the three reference images, and the word mood board research. I'm just gonna hit select all three of those and hit Control G. That way I can just move it all kind of as a group, right? Something like that might be a little better. Just kind of give it a little bit of hierarchy. It does make a difference, and you know, I don't know, it does help at this point in time to be a little bit more um, OCD about this kind of stuff. Um, I mean, those skills really come in handy, especially, you know, it's not always going to hurt you. It will actually help you in this instance. So, something like this, that might be kind of cool. Mood board research on the right-hand side. If you had any research, if you had preliminary sketches, that would also be wonderful to put on the right-hand side and just label that preliminary sketches. Um, anyways, the last thing I wanted to, oh wait, let me group this. Okay, I'm going to select all this. And you can actually put a group within a group, which is kind of like very Inception-ish. Anyways, control group. It's like a dream within a dream. It's a group within a group. Okay, so this part I'm going to call VizDev, just to indicate to myself what's inside that folder. Okay, so I've got all these put together. I'm just going to save. Okay, save. Okay. Okay, so you want to save out the high-res version first. And it's got all this stuff here. It's all formatted, ready to go for your portfolio. And then I want to save as. So you go to File, and you go to Save As. Oh, wait. Before I do that, I think I need to shrink it down first. Okay, so this is the tricky part. I saved this. So now I'm going to, okay, just to be on the safe side, I need to be on the safe side on this. I'm just going to duplicate this file. What that means is I'm just copying everything I have here, and I'm cloning it onto a new, I'm duplicating onto a new file. So I go to Image, go to Duplicate, and this one I call Template Ones Small, something like that. Small, okay, and I hit OK. Bam. Okay, so this one's Template 01 Small. This one's been saved out. I'm totally happy with it and all that kind of stuff. I could, you know, start printing off of that. I'm going to move this off to the side though. Okay, this one that's small, this is the one that you're going to be sending me. And this is also, you know, if you're going to put this up on the web or something like that, you know, you want something that's web friendly. You could tell right now that this is not web friendly. How? Well, you see over here it says 25%. That means that this is showing up at 1/4 the resolution it normally would. And so, like, let's say at this resolution currently, this would actually show up on the web like that big. So where is that, 100%? Like, this is actually what people are going to see when they open this image up on a website. You're just be like, what am I looking at? This looks abstract or something. So you want to shrink this down so that it actually fits the page you know, like this at 100%. So image size, go to image size here, and the first thing I'll usually do if I want to reduce down the image size, I go to resolution over here and hit 72. Hit OK. Wait for the spinning wheel. Oh, okay. So now 25% is about that big. Let's see how big 100% is. That's pretty good. If 100% shows up like that, takes up that much of the screen, you're at least getting all of it within a screen. So that's pretty good. So as a small file, I think this is a good start. So now I've shrunk it. Now it takes up way less space, I hope, and I'm just gonna save it out. I'm gonna save as. Save as. Go over here. Whatever you want to save it to. I'm gonna save it as a JPEG because that's generally the file extension that we use for the web stuff. And go template small or template 01 visdev, right? Visdev small. That's fine. Okay. So I'm going to save that out. Save. Cool. How big is this? Okay, so this is going to show up at as 581.4K, so that should be an okay size. I think it's okay. And then I'm going to go to the next one. Go to caricature. And I'm going to save as well. Go to File, go to Save As. I'm going to put this as a JPEG. And I'm just going to name it between the words 0, 1 and small. I'm just going to name it Nick Cage. Okay, something like that. Oh yeah, you should also put your names on these files too. Oh, we'll do that. Just go like Dan Chang, something like that. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I probably should have done that for the other one now too, but let's save this out first. Okay. And then I'm going to do this last one, Fantasy O, and you can also hit Control Shift S if you want to skip this. See, there's the hotkey, Shift Control S. If you wanted to call up Save As by itself. So this one's actually not done by me, so I'm just going to name it Aaron. Aaron M. And then just instead of calling it 001 small, I'm going to call it Moon Raptor or something like that. Okay. Okay. Moon Raptor small. And hit save. Cool. Right. So let's go to that folder that I kind of messed up on. Oh, if you click on if you're on a folder and you can hit Control N like this, then you can duplicate that so that you can actually go to the actual folder where you save things to. So what do I have on here? I've got what is this? Rio Hondo, I think, is where I save this stuff as. Digital painting class. Oh yeah, there it is. Dan Chang, 01 Nick Cage, small. Aaron M, something like that. And then we've got, I've got another one. Oh, there it is. The one I called template. I'm just going to rename that Dan Chang. There. Cool. Alright, so here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And just gonna, I don't know, put that in a folder. Call this templating. Something like that. Drag these. templated images into this folder. Let's take a look. Yeah, so now you've got a nice portfolio page that's ready to put on the web. It shows up nice and small for the web. It doesn't show up oversized. And that could fit up on the website really well, and it's formatted. It's got your information on there. Hopefully you'll eventually have your signature on there, Aaron, and there we go, something like that. Okay. So I've gone over how to format stuff that's vertical, how to reduce the file size down so that it's good for the web. Um, the last stuff, the ones that's high res, you definitely want to save that out as a high res version. And that might come later when I ask you for the high res version on when I pass around the thumb drive, so that we have it in our records. So just in case, Dave wants to print it out and put it up on the bookcases and stuff like that. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for sort of bearing with us through this worldwide pandemic, and that we're doing this stuff from home. I know it's challenging. Feel free to email me if you have any questions, and I will try to make a little demo or something like that to cover it and send that over to you. All right, thank you. Goodbye.